let's welcome in Pete Prisco and Ryan Wilson because we're going to join in on the MVP conversation. Gentlemen, always good to see you. We're going to make a case for Lamar. We're going to make a case for Josh Allen. But before we get to that, Lamar Jackson earning that first-team All-Pro selection there. Ryan, I will start with you. Do you agree with that?
I do, and we'll find out shortly why. Also, fun fact, Pete and Jacqueline, the AP, who gave the All-Pro to Lamar moments ago, also decides the MVP vote. So I wonder if that's a precursor to things to come. I know that Pete had his vote. I can only imagine who he voted for. And I just want to say quickly, Jacqueline, not so much you, but more to Pete. Happy New Year, buddy.
It's way too past that. Way too late for Happy New Year. Come on. That was a week ago, over a week ago. You can't do that. You know better than that. Look, kudos to Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson, has had an unreal season. And you could make a case for either one of them, and we'll try to go through it and do that. He's earned this first-team All-Pro award. Did I vote for him for first-team All-Pro award? No, I did not. So, but he's earned the right to be in the conversation in every single offensive award that there is, and I think he will be in the conversation for every one of them.
Yeah, Lamar getting 30 first-place votes compared to Josh Allen's 18. Let's get into the discussion because we're going to make a case for each of these quarterbacks to get MVP, and we'll start with Lamar. We already mentioned that historic season, over 4,000 yards passing. Pete, make the case for Lamar Jackson.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it. He's got 4,000 yards passing. He's got over 900 yards rushing. I mean, he's thrown 41 touchdown passes, and he's been phenomenal. And everything he does just shows how much work he puts in because he's improved greatly. This is a guy that's improved throwing the football. He keeps his head up. He doesn't just take off and run. I think he's one of the great stories the league has seen in a long, long time by the fact that he's become such a good passer in this offense. So any accolades he gets, he deserves. Now, having said all that, like Josh Allen, both of them have to show they can win in the postseason. I think that's an important thing for both of them going forward. But as far as the regular season, he was phenomenal.
Yeah, Jacqueline, I agree. And the thing is, and I heard Pete talk about this in HQ earlier in the week, if you told me that these two split the vote for MVP, sign me up for that because they have both been incredibly special. Now, and I know Pete's on the side of Josh Allen over the last few weeks and months. And when you look at the numbers, Lamar Jackson wins in a landslide. But there's more to the MVP than that. But Lamar Jackson has improved on his numbers this season compared to the numbers in 2019 and 2023, the other years that he won the MVP award. And one of the things that stuck out to me, Jacqueline, is that his passer rating this year, 119 and change, fourth best ever. Only bettered by Aaron Rodgers twice and Peyton Manning. Both those guys won MVP in that year as well. But Pete's larger point, and part of me wonders or wishes that the award came after the postseason. These guys have to win in the playoffs. This feels like the year they win, and maybe they end up meeting, and that would be fun. But it's so hard. You could flip a coin, and both these guys have been absolutely amazing and so important to their teams this year.
Yeah, 119.6, that passer rating for Lamar. Now, on the flip side, Josh Allen also having a heck of a season, the first player in NFL history to have 40-plus touchdowns in 5 straight seasons. Of course, and Pete, we've talked about this a lot, having him taking care of the football. That was a big criticism of his, but he only threw 6 interceptions after throwing 18 the prior season. Pete, make the case for Josh Allen, like you always do.
Well, okay, I'll start with the snaps. He's played 106 fewer snaps than Lamar Jackson. So if you project his numbers over those, using those 106 extra snaps, his touchdowns would be at 31. His passing yards would be at almost 4,200. And so I think you got to look at that and take that into account. He's had a great year rushing the football, scoring touchdowns. He's got 12 of them. Here's the other couple things that you need to take into account. Lamar has 9 Pro Bowlers on his team. 9. Josh Allen has 2. Him. And so I think him and another guy. So when you think about it, the talent level is much better in Baltimore. And the other thing is he's got an MVP candidate in his own backfield in Derrick Henry. When a guy's pushing 2,000 yards, he's an MVP candidate. So I think there's reason enough why you could put Josh Allen in the conversation. He doesn't have more wins against playoff teams, but you know what he does have? he has victories over both #1 seeds, the one in the NFC and the #1 seed in the AFC, and nobody else can stake that claim. So there's a lot of reasons why Josh Allen is the MVP. His numbers don't make him the Offensive Player of the Year, but I think when you look at all the data and everything in play, I think he's a strong candidate for the MVP.
Yeah, and to your point, Pete, when Diggs left, it was a whole, oh my gosh, who is Josh Allen going to throw the ball to? There's not a lot of, rapport with him and any of the receivers, and he's held up just fine. Ryan, Pete said there's a lot of reasons for Josh Allen to be the MVP, so just add on to the case, make it for Josh Allen.
I mean, Pete makes a pretty good point. I'm not willing to project the numbers that Josh would have had he played. He could have just played those games. And they did try to get him some help in drafting Keon Coleman and trading for Amari Cooper. Coleman was hurt, and Amari Cooper never seemed to find his stride. But I think about it this way, Jacqueline. If he's not on that team and you're playing with Mitch Trubisky as a backup, that's probably, no exaggeration, a 4-win team, maybe best case. And that's how important he is to what they do. But to Pete's larger point, if you were to switch Lamar and Josh on their respective teams, you probably get close to the same results because that's how important they are to what they do. And even though Josh's numbers, other than the interceptions you talked about, he only threw 6 this year, all the other numbers across the board are down from previous years where he had bigger yards, total yards or total touchdowns, or a higher passer rating. That said, he is playing his best football, and it's not even close. He's making fewer mistakes. He's throwing way more accurately. We remember Pete talking about Josh coming out of the draft, and he was playing with bouncers and bartenders, but he's also improved his ability to throw the ball and change his arm angle, and all that taken together has made him a better player. He also, Pete, you talk about Derrick Henry. Josh is 2 for 1. He is Derrick Henry as well. So I understand Pete's point. I lean towards Lamar, but if you told me Josh won, I would say high five to Josh because he absolutely deserves it. And I would imagine this Bills team is going to make a pretty deep run here, all because of Josh.
Ryan, when you were starting that case, I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be making the case for Josh Allen, not talking about all the other numbers that are down. But let's circle back because those first place votes for Lamar in terms of All-Pro, again, it's 30 to Josh Allen's 18. Ryan, I'll start with you. Is this a precursor, and we kind of touched it off the top, to the MVP?
Pete would know better than me because that's his wheelhouse. He's been covering the league for 30 years and probably voting for MVPs for maybe close to that long. But the reason I have to make my case the way I did, Jacqueline, is because, as Pete notes, the numbers don't necessarily support Josh, but he does all the tangential stuff that makes him so important to that team. But I would be curious to sort of hear the argument, Pete, for why Lamar would get the All-Pro nod but not get the MVP nod by the same group of AP voters.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of times you'll give a guy like Lamar Jackson the Offensive Player of the Year award and then give the MVP to another guy if you're going to do that, and he's the MVP because his team was a little bit better, had a better record, and his numbers might not have been as good. So it's interesting to see this because I think there's been once, I think it happened in the past where a guy who was the quarterback on the All-Pro team didn't win the MVP. Way back in the day, I think it was Joe Montana and John Elway. So there is precedence for it, but I think this is an indicator that you're going to see a close vote. Probably the vote for the MVP will be a lot closer than the vote for the quarterback on the All-Pro team. I think this is going to be almost 50-50, and it wouldn't shock me to see it split right down the middle.
Pete, Ryan, we certainly appreciate it making the case for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson when it comes to that MVP race. And again, it is tight. And Vegas right now, they do have Josh Allen as the betting favorite. Now, you can see Josh Allen in action in the playoffs on CBS. Broncos, Bills, that is Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And, of course, you can stream that on Paramount Plus as well.